So I want to just introduce to you our speaker this morning, Decee Cornish, who's been an active storyteller, professionally involved in storytelling for, I don't know how long, Decee, 20 years, thereabouts, way back when I got started too. And Decee was a part of that early community and has since been moving all about and doing some amazing things. I want to just highlight a couple of things about Decee and the kind of impact that he has on our community. Decee not only has served as a veteran in the Vietnam War, but Decee has also been actively involved for the last 16 years with the Tarrant Community College, working with special programs for youth for almost 16 years, thereabouts, doing some pretty significant stuff with kids in our community. He's also been active with teaching courses out there. He's also on the touring roster for the Texas Commission of Arts, which is a juried kind of thing, so it's not easy for artists to get on that, and travels around the U.S. and country with that as well. And then also just he was recently given the Live Theater Award from the Fort Worth Arts Council for his involvement with Pantagles Theater. You might have also been fortunate enough to see him on one of the Stage West Storyteller Circle nights. They do that every quarter, I believe it is, and he's been on that circuit for a couple of times. You got to see Donna Ingham a few weeks ago, and of course we celebrate Donna for being a great liar, and she did the whole Tall Tales thing. But it's also important that you understand that Decee currently, I believe, holds the Biggest Liar in Texas award as well. So I don't know, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a little more fact and history today, but he also has that. It's a very diverse individual and an interesting person, and I hope you get a chance to visit with him also afterwards, see what he's got on his stole. There's so many stories that he carries about with him. But this morning, we're glad to hear what he has to bring us. Let's welcome Mr. Decee Cornish.
Slide this down a little bit. What's up? Y'all look so serious. Lighten up, man. It's only church. I'm Decee Cornish, and I tell stories. And the first thing I want to do is give a shout out to my brother JT over there. Where's JT? Raise your hand up, JT. JT and I work together with veterans that are suffering from PTSD. We've been doing classes and things like that lately, and he's the only one made it, so thank you, JT, for coming. And then my little brother right there, Fred, and he's my buddy. I have to give him a shout-out, too. I'm so glad he came all the way from San Angelo to make sure I got this right. Okay. Burdens down, Lord, burdens down, Lord. I'm gonna lay my burdens down. Burdens down, Lord, burdens down, Lord. I'm gonna lay my burdens down. My friends don't treat me like they used to since I laid my burdens down. My friends don't treat me like they used to since I laid my burdens down. Oftentimes we lay our burdens down. And when we lay our burdens down, it gives us a freedom that comes, that is unique and special. But sometimes we can't. Sometimes we carry them around all the way into different things. And I told Tom one day, I said, Tom, you know what? We was talking about church and religion, different things, and I'm a Baptist. That's right, I'm a Baptist. You can't sprinkle us. We got to be dunked. Matter of fact, we had one cat in our church. He was so bad to everybody in church. His name was John. Sorry, his name was, oh boy, if he finds out I tell this story, he's going to kill me. But his name was John Henry Bird. He was the son of the superintendent of Sunday school, Sister Emma Bird. And John Henry was growing up. He was a straight-up Fifth Ward thug. For those of you that don't know anything about Houston, Texas, where I grew up, Fifth Ward is a really rough neighborhood. And John Henry was the toughest dude in Fifth Ward. He was one of the type of brothers who would hit you, boom, yeah, what, fool? This was John Henry, man. And I'll never forget, John Henry came up, and one Sunday he was like, you know, they always open the doors of the church, and all of a sudden he walked down the center aisle, and everybody was like, oh, my God, what's going on? John Henry finna rob the preacher. He said, I want to be baptized. Well, I'm going to tell you, 3, 4 women in the front row just fainted dead over when they heard that. And so John Henry came up, man, and I'll never forget, that Sunday the church was full, just like this room was full, and they was up there, man. They took him up to the baptismal pool. The preacher got in there, and he had on them waders you wear when you go trout fishing. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And he dunked John Henry. He said, one splash for the Father, splash for the Son, splash for the Holy Ghost. And the whole congregation jumped up and went, dunk him one more time. The Lord don't know him like we do. That was John Henry, man. You know, and see, but John Henry finally came and laid his burden down. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we learn things from kids. We learn things from kids. And I didn't always have the kind of relationship I wanted with my daughter when she was young, because I was on the road and her mother was on the road and different things. And I'll never forget one of the things. You find as a man, you learn your priorities many ways. I was at my daughter's graduation, and she'd gone to this really fancy private school, and there wasn't a whole lot of black people there. So I got me one of them real fancy suits that came from Wedgwood Village, right there off of Illinois in Dallas, back in the old days when Michael Irvin and Deion Sanders and all them was playing for the Dallas Cowboys. So I went over there and I got me a suit designed by Deion Sanders. I went to my daughter's graduation in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm walking around, man, I'm introducing myself. How you doing? How you doing? I'm Amber's dad. That's my daughter's name, Amber. I'm Amber's dad. I'm Amber's dad. Well, I'm going around introducing myself, and her kids in the school had never met me. And so I'm introducing myself and everything. And so we going along, and then all of a sudden, I'm standing there, and I'm looking good in my suit, you know, my iridescent blue suit, you know, with all the shiny buttons and everything. And then one of the little boys come over and goes, who is that? And the other little boy goes, that's Amber's dad. He's a pimp from Dallas. So I'm standing there, I don't know what to say. You know, I'm like, But fortunately, my daughter came to my rescue. She came and she grabbed my hand and she started running around and reintroducing me to everybody. Hi, this is my father. He's a writer and a storyteller. Hi, this is my father. He's a writer and a storyteller. She finally got to the principal and said, hi, this is my father. He's a writer and a storyteller. And the principal looked at her and said, well, what does he write? And her mind went blank for a minute. Then she said, checks. That's when I truly came to understand the place I had in my daughter's life. Where you stand in life and how you get to that point, sometimes the greatest heroes in life go unheralded. I'm going to share you a story about a woman from right here in Fort Worth. Her name was Essie Sturgis. Essie Sturgis was, how many of y'all ever heard of Rosa Parks? Raise your hand real quick. Put your hands down. Her name was Essie Sturgis. Essie Sturgis lived in a mythical place called Texas, in a strange, magical city called Fort Worth, in a little-known community called Como. Essie Sturgis lived in Como. Now, she'd done many, many jobs in her time. And doing the different jobs that she had done, she'd been a maid more times than many. She'd worked as a cook, and she cleaned houses and different things. And she just did anything she could to make money. And she took care and raised most of her kids, and she was a good mother. Her kids was all grown and out on their own now, but she still had to work. And she got one of the best jobs she ever had. She went to work for one of them high-tone professors at a faraway college called Texas Christian University. And what she would do is they didn't have bus service in Como so she would have to walk down the street in Como until she got to Camp Bowie Boulevard. Now, Camp Bowie Boulevard was called Camp Bowie Boulevard because it led to Camp Bowie. See, it wasn't that fancy naval station we got out there now, and it wasn't Carswell Air Force Base. Back then, it was Camp Bowie Army Artillery Range and Training Center. Como was at the end of the artillery range. So if you lived in Como, every now and then you'd be... yeah. Well, that was just the luck of the draw, And she would walk from there. Now, when she would walk up until she could get on the bus, and she got on the bus, and when she got on the bus, she could sit anywhere she wanted to on that bus that the military guys rode. Because, see, not too far from here was a mythical place called Killeen. And Killeen was a man by the name of Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson had gotten on a bus, a military bus. And on that military bus, he was sitting next to a woman that was mistaken for a white woman. The bus driver got up and accused him of many different things and called him all kind of bad names. And he went to a court martial. A man by the name of Thurgood Marshall, who was a young lawyer for the newly founded NAACP, came down and defended Robinson. And they integrated the military buses. So when she got on the bus up there, she could sit anywhere she wanted to. And that was cool. But when she got to where she had to get off the bus, because the bus basically took soldiers from Camp Bowie to the bus station downtown Fort Worth. And when she passed by the intersection right there where Camp Bowie crosses into University Boulevard, she had to get off the military bus and get on the regular bus. Now, when she got on the regular bus, it had a line right down the middle. Because once upon a time in this great country we live in, there was a ideology and a principle that was given to us by the Supreme Court called separate but equal. But the Supreme Court don't always get everything right. That's a story for another day. And they said separate was equal. Separate ain't gonna never be equal until we share the same opportunities, the same, how can I say this? We have to share the same joys and happiness, sadness, and sorrow. That is when we have true equality. When we share all those things, not just the good, but the bad. But they decided separate was equal, so they put the line in the center right there real quick. And so Essie got on, she paid her money, and she went and she sat where she always sat, right there at the first seat behind the line. And she was riding along. She wasn't bothering nobody. Now, as she got a little closer, University Boulevard didn't look like it does today back then. And there was actually houses of people that lived in that area. And the bus stopped, and up came a woman with her little girl. The woman came up, and the bus driver opened the door, and the little girl got on, and the woman told the bus driver what she wanted to do, what she wanted him to do. And he said, yes, ma'am. And he took the money, and he closed the door, and he pulled off, and the little girl started walking up and down the aisle the way little girls walk. Up and down the aisle, until finally Essie just leaned over and said, baby, what's the matter? The little girl looked up at Essie and said, I want to sit by a window. What? I want to sit by a window. You want to sit by the window? Well, come on, baby, you can sit by the window. And Essie slid over, and the little girl did what little girls do. She climbed right over Essie. Back then, the windows on the bus were let down, so the window was down, and she got there, she stuck her head out the window, looked like one of them Cocker Spaniels, y'all know, right? They riding along, And Essie's sitting there, the little girl's got her head stuck out the window, and they riding on the bus, and ain't nobody bothering nobody. But people is getting on the bus. Some people get on the bus and they pay their money and they sit in the front of the line. Some people pay their money and they get on the bus and they sit in the back. And they're going along, and then finally a couple of fellas get on the bus. When they get on the bus, they kind of look, and then they sit next to each other and they start talking back and forth. And then one of them gets up and he walks up and he taps the bus driver on the shoulder, and he whispers something in his ear, and the bus driver reaches up and he adjusts the rearview mirror. He looks at the fella and nods his head. He pulls the bus over, and when he pulls the bus over, he walks back over and he stands and he looks at Essie and says, "You gotta move." Essie looked up and went, "I paid my money. I'm sitting where I'm supposed to, and I ain't bothering nobody." "Well, I can't have this on my bus. You got to move." "I paid my money. I'm sitting where I'm supposed to, and I ain't bothering nobody." "Well, I can't have this on my bus. You're going to have to move." "I paid my money. I'm sitting where I'm supposed to, and I ain't bothering nobody." He said, "Well, I ain't having this on my bus." And that's when he reached over and he grabbed a little girl. Well, when he grabbed the little girl held onto the window. She said, "I want to sit by the window." And he kept pulling at the little girl. "I want to sit by the window. I want to sit by the window." And he kept pulling at her, leaning over Essie, pulling at the little girl. And then finally the little girl went to swinging at him like this because he pulled one arm free and she was holding on with one arm and she was swinging like this here. "I want to sit by the window. I want to sit by the window." And that's when he jerked her real good and the little girl went, "Ah!" And that's when Essie's maternal instincts kicked in. If y'all don't understand the word maternal, that means she started acting like a mama. Essie jumped up and she pushed that fella. She said, "You leave that child alone." And that's when he said, "Sit down, old woman." And he pushed her down. And you don't never put your hands on a woman. Because Essie did what most women would do. She went to windmilling. Man, next thing you know, Essie went to windmilling like that. He grabbed it, he tried to push her down, and then she went to kicking, and she kicked to the left, she kicked to the right, and then all of a sudden she scored. He hollered like an old booger bat, "Oh!" and he fell over. Now, when he hollered like that and he fell over, folks in the front jumped up and started running to the back. Folks in the back jumped up and started running to the front. But before either one of those elements of confusion could contact each other, there was a sound beating on the side of the door. Boom, 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 boom. Right there on the outside the bus door. They looked over and it was the Fort Worth police. They pulled up to see why the bus was sitting on the side of the road. Somebody opened the door and they ran inside and they started talking. And they looked over and they grabbed Essie and they took her to jail. They took her to jail. Essie didn't have no money to get out of jail. And back then, everybody didn't have a cell phone. So she spent the night in jail. Next day, there was going to be an arraignment. That's where the judge looks at you and tells you what he got planned for you. And so Essie was standing at the arraignment. While Essie was standing at the arraignment, the judge came forward, and there was 4 or 5 other people there, and she went through all of them. Finally, he said, "Essie Sturgis?" She stood up and said, "Yes, Your Honor, that's me." She said, "Okay, let's see what we got going on here with you, Essie." "Ooh, disturbing the peace, inciting a riot, assault and battery of a public servant. You've been busy, Miss Sturgis. You have anything to say for yourself?" "Yes, Your Honor. I paid my money. I was sitting where I was supposed to, and I wasn't bothering nobody." "But that's not what I have written here, and the witness is sitting right there." "I don't care. I paid my money. I was sitting where I was supposed to, and I wasn't bothering nobody." "Well, do you have anything else you'd like to say?" "That's about it, Your Honor." "Well, based on what the witnesses said and what the accused here said and what I have here on this paper, I'm ready to rule. And then that's when somebody was sitting in the gallery. That's the folk that sit around and watch you like on Judge Judy. Stood up and said, Your Honor, may I speak? Do you have something that's pertinent to the issue in front of me right now? Yes, sir, Your Honor, I was on that bus. He said, well, come on up. He came up and he started talking. He looked and he said, are you sure are you sure? That's what you saw? Not only me, but there's some other folk here that was on that bus too. And they stood up. And it was folk that had sat in the front and the back of that bus that stood up in that courtroom. And they all swore that exactly what that man told them had happened was true. Well, the judge told him to sit down. Thank y'all for y'all's testimony. I'm still ready to rule. And he hit that old gavel on that old big rock. He got him, pop. He leaned over and he said, Essie Sturgis, on the charge of disturbing the peace, I find you guilty. And citing the riot, I find you guilty as well, because you did start a ruckus. But on the charge of the assault and battery of a public servant, I find you not guilty. And you lucky fella, because if I was on that bus, I'd have let you have it too. I find Essie Sturgis, court costs, full total penalty to be paid $2. Boom. Essie didn't even have $2. But one of them fellas that got up in that gallery and he took off his hat and they passed the hat right there in that courtroom in Fort Worth, Texas. And when they finished passing that hat, Essie had enough money to pay for her fine and get her a nice taxi cab ride back to Como. Essie took her stand right here in Fort Worth, Texas in 1949, many, many years before Rosa Parks took her stand. And I think Essie didn't make it into the history books because she didn't quite handle it in the same dignified manner as Rosa did. Essie handled it the way my mama would. And for that, I gotta love her. Because every now and then we have to, lay down our burdens, take a stand. I learned one thing before I go, and I'm going to share this with you. Don't take but a minute. I learned that there's 3 keys to spirituality. You got to worship God, love people, and use things. You get them in any order other than that, and it just ain't right. Thank y'all for listening.
Decee Cornish, thank you. I think that deserves another one.